In the United States alone, cows kill 3 times more people than sharks do worldwide, and the cow is the bottom of today's list. Hi, curious minds! Today we're looking at the deadly animals nobody is actually afraid of, the ones we feed, pet, or swat off a wall without thinking. No hypothetical fights here. We're counting one thing only: how many people die per year, because fear measures a single encounter. Statistics measure all of them, and the first ones on this list are grazing quietly in a field. Cattle and horses. We domesticated them, gave them names, and made them the mascot of peaceful country living. And in the US alone, cattle and horses together account for around 40 deaths a year. Between them, most of the animal-related workplace deaths on American farms. It isn't aggression, it's mass. People die from being crushed, kicked, or knocked off their feet, not because a herbivore decided to switch careers and become a predator. Here's the part people don't think about. The dangerous animal is very often not the bull. Right after calving, the mother defends her calf hard enough that standing anywhere near her is a genuinely bad idea. The friendly face from the milk carton, the instincts of private security, and the mass of a small car. And you don't even have to be a farmer. In Britain, 5 to 8 people die on farms every year, and often they aren't workers at all. They're people cutting across a field. Picture it. You're walking your dog down a path you've taken 100 times. And today, the herd decides your dog is a wolf. Australia makes the mismatch clearest. It's called snake country for a reason. On the classic ranking of venom toxicity, 21 of the world's 25 deadliest snakes live there. And over 14 years, horses still killed 74 Australians, more than any group of venomous animals in the country. I understand being careful around a snake. I'd be watching the grass too. But the real Australian survival lesson seems to be, watch the saddle, not the grass. The next one doesn't need size at all. It just needs your immune system to panic. Bees and wasps. Quick caveat, wasps are one thing people genuinely do fear. They just fear the wrong part. The sting hurts, but the lethal part is inside you. Between 2018 and 2023, stings killed 497 people in the US, about 83 a year. That's the single largest category of animal-caused death in the country. Another 220,000 people end up in the emergency room because of them every year. But it usually isn't the amount of venom that kills, it's anaphylaxis. The immune system spots a microscopic threat and responds as if the entire building is on fire. And it doesn't matter where you were stung, the reaction goes off everywhere at once. Airways narrow, blood pressure drops, the body shuts down in minutes. Your own security team pulls the fire alarm and locks the exits from the inside. And one more number I can't explain. 84% of sting deaths are men. The data doesn't say why, but somewhere very close to that statistic sits the sentence, "Step back, I've got this." The bee is just a button. Everything after that is your own body trying much too hard to help. The next animal doesn't sting, doesn't bite, and has nothing against you personally. It's just going about its evening. Deer. This one has nothing against you. It just walks onto a road at exactly the wrong minute. Around 200 people a year die in animal-related crashes in the US, though federal crash data doesn't record the species, so anyone quoting that number as deer specifically is claiming more than we actually know. We do know who owns the road, though. In a single year, drivers filed about 1.7 million animal collision claims, and more than 1 million of those were deer. The average driver's odds of meeting something on the hood are 1 in 139. In West Virginia, 1 in 40. As lottery odds go, those are fantastic. The problem is the prize. Collisions peak from October to December, at dawn and in the first hours after sunset, right when you're driving home. Then, researchers at the University of Washington went through more than 1 million of these crashes across 27 years and worked out that if the country stayed on daylight saving time permanently, every single year it would avoid 33 human deaths, 2,000 injuries, and 36,000 dead deer. So changing the clocks really can kill you. It just outsources the logistics to a deer. And that's the strange part. We didn't collide with deer in the forest. We collided in the calendar. People drive home at exactly the hour deer come out to feed, and that's where the 3-digit numbers run out. From here on, it's thousands. Worms. We already spent an entire video on the creatures living inside the human body. I think I introduced some of them a little too politely. Tapeworms kill around 2,000 people a year. The dangerous part isn't the worm in your gut, It's the larvae of the pork tapeworm. They get into the bloodstream, travel through the body, and settle in the brain, causing neurocysticercosis, one of the leading preventable causes of acquired epilepsy in the world. Roundworms kill about 4,000. And here's the comparison this whole video was built for. Big cats, crocodiles, jellyfish, spiders, bears, sharks, and wolves. All of them together come to about 600 deaths a year. Roundworms alone are more than 6 times that. This is where the list stops making intuitive sense. I can explain being afraid of a crocodile. It's huge, it has teeth, and it's looking at me like lunch. Nobody ever trained my brain to be afraid of something that looks like a pale noodle. By the way, if you enjoy watching statistics ruin a perfectly good fear, subscribe. The numbers only go up from here. The kissing bug. The most romantic name in parasitology, attached to possibly the least romantic delivery method available. The bug hides in cracks in the wall, comes out at night, and bites where the skin is thinnest, usually near the face, hence the name. But the parasite that causes Chagas disease doesn't come in with the bite. After feeding, the bug defecates next to the wound. The wound starts to itch, and the person rubs the parasite into their own skin, eye, or mouth. It outsources the final step of the infection entirely to the customer. The first phase can go completely unnoticed, and the parasite lives in the body for decades. Then, in about a third of infected people, the heart starts breaking down. Arrhythmia, heart failure, sometimes sudden cardiac arrest. Around 8 million people are infected, and every year the disease kills roughly 8,000. It's the delay that gets me. A lion, a crocodile, a wasp, they all give you feedback in the same second, and at least you know what's happening. One night with this bug schedules the consequences 30 years out, and by the time they arrive, the person has long forgotten the appointment was ever made. Chagas disease can wait for decades. The next one is famous for never being in a hurry at all. The freshwater snail. The snail doesn't chase you, doesn't bite, doesn't sting. It just rents out space to something that can get inside you without any of that. Freshwater snails of the genera Bulinus and Biomphalaria are the intermediate hosts of blood flukes. The parasite multiplies inside the snail and releases microscopic larvae into the water, and those go straight through unbroken human skin. No wound, no bite, no dramatic attack. You step into the water, and the water steps into you. From there, the adult worms live in your blood vessels for years, laying eggs that cause chronic inflammation and quietly destroy organs from the inside. More than 250 million people need preventive treatment, transmission is recorded in 79 countries, and around 14,000 people a year still don't survive it. And the WHO specifically notes that even that number is probably an undercount. And this is the part that genuinely impresses me. The snail used to be my proof that an animal can be completely harmless. No fangs, no claws, no speed. It turns out none of that is required. You just have to be in the right water at the right moment. And it isn't the snail that has to be there, it's you. And now the one people trust more than anything else alive. It's the last stop before the number that breaks the whole list. The dog. What puts dogs on this list isn't the attack, it's rabies. Estimates of its global death toll vary enormously, somewhere between 16 and 70,000 people a year, with the WHO working from a figure of around 59,000. And up to 99% of human rabies cases come from dogs. The virus gets in through saliva, travels along the nerves to the brain, and once the first symptoms appear, there is essentially no saving that person. Before symptoms, though, rabies is still preventable. Wash the wound, get the vaccine in time, and for severe bites, immunoglobulin or monoclonal antibodies. About 40% of the people who die are children under 15, and geography decides everything here. In the US, dog rabies is essentially eliminated, and almost every domestic case now traces back to bats. Same virus, different delivery service. Everywhere else, it comes down to money and distance. For someone living on $1 or $2 a day, a full course of post-exposure treatment can cost months of income, before you count the travel and the wages lost getting there. Honestly, this is the only entry on the list that actually makes me angry. A working vaccine has existed for more than 100 years. The virus isn't winning biologically, it's winning economically. And now the animal next to which every previous number looks like a rounding error. The mosquito. The deadliest animal on the planet weighs a few milligrams and looks like a comma somebody attached wings to. Mosquitoes are linked to roughly 760,000 human deaths a year. Sharks to 6. Remember those 7 predators from earlier? The ones that came to 600 between them? Mosquitoes outkill all of them about 1,200 times over. More than 80% of those deaths are malaria, carried by the female Anopheles mosquito. In 2024, malaria killed around 610,000 people. 95% of them were in Africa, and about 3/4 of those were children under 5. And no, mosquitoes have not killed half of everyone who ever lived. That claim doesn't survive checking, though roughly everyone repeats it. The truth does fine without the help. If mosquito-borne deaths disappeared, the total number of animal-caused deaths on the planet would drop nearly 6-fold. Here's what gets lost in all of these numbers. For millions of families, the deadliest animal in the world isn't a predator from a documentary. It's a thin sound near a child's bed. The mosquito isn't the strongest or the most aggressive one here. The risk of any single encounter with it is negligible. But it repeats that encounter billions of times a night beside every bed in the warm half of the planet. And that's how a negligible personal risk turns into 760,000 deaths. None of these animals are playing the same game as a shark or a lion. We judge danger by one encounter. The numbers count all of them, including the ones that happen while we're asleep. Almost nobody ever shares a room with a hippo. Everybody shares a bedroom with mosquitoes. That's why fear and statistics name different winners. Which one of these seemed completely harmless to you before today? Tell me in the comments. See you soon. There's still more to tell.